Welcome to our presentation, Adventures in Texas Home Values, Zillow, Texas Counties, and the Stories They Tell. My name is Toery Tonche, and here is the rest of my team. This project is an extension of another project our team worked on together, where we constructed a regression model to predict Texas home values. During the exploratory analysis phase of that project, we found counties that stood out in various county metrics, and we wanted to dig deeper to find out why. We also were interested in looking at median Texas home value over time, as our other project only looked at data for a single year. We decided to explore the following questions. Why does Carson County have such a high average annual pay, but not median home value? Why do some hill country counties have such high median home values despite lower average annual pay? And how has a typical Texas home value changed over time compared to other states? Here is an overview of the presentation. I will be sharing more information about the data and tools we use for this project, as well as how we prep the data. We gathered data from two sources. From Zillow, we had the monthly Zillow Home Value Index, which measures the typical home value across U.S. counties. This data contained home value index for 207 Texas counties for each month dating back to 1996. From the Texas Association of Counties, we had county data on per capita income, average annual pay, median age, and other metrics listed here. We used 2019 data because it was the most recent year available. The tools we used for this project were R and Tableau. The various visualizations that you will see throughout the presentation required one of the following data preparations. Core plus maps and scatter plots required us to filter the data to include only Texas counties. We then ignored all years outside of the year of 2019. We then joined all the data sets together using county name as a mapping ID. Core plus maps were created in R, while scatter plots were created in Tableau. For time series plots, we subsetted the home value data for the years 2005 to 2020 up to the month of October. Because this data was in a horizontal orientation, we needed to stack the home value columns vertically, where we created a column that held all those home values and another that held the corresponding date. These time series plots were created in Tableau.
This is the story of Carson County, the annual pay king of Texas. Carson County is situated 30 miles outside of Amarillo, Texas. Its population is just under 6,000 people, many of whom live in three little towns, Panhandle, White Deer, and Skellytown. The county's per capita income is around $46,000. Its median household income is close to $65,000. Yet its average annual pay was over $82,000, and that's the highest in the state. So what's going on out there? At first we thought there was some tech giant running an operation out there, but a Google search for jobs in Carson County didn't turn up any high-paying positions. Maybe we got bad data. Whatever the reason, our curiosity was piqued. We went back to Google and this time pulled up satellite imagery of the county. Maybe there was an employer out there that didn't post advertisements for openings on LinkedIn. If so, maybe we could spot their operation on Google Maps. After some searching around the towns, we concluded there's no major industry out there. No giant Tesla factories, no energy firms or manufacturing operations. Nothing to explain such a high average annual pay. Searching across Carson County, we saw wind farms, pump jacks and natural gas wells, agricultural fields. Nothing of interest until we came across something in the southwest corner. When we took a closer look, we saw, well, we weren't really sure what we were looking at. Maybe a prison. Zooming in closer, we saw triple layers of security fencing. We also saw guard towers looking over cleared no man's land areas. And there were also tan vehicles with turrets. In another part of the facility, which we realized must cover many square miles, we saw what appeared to be anti-armor barriers known as hedgehogs. Right along with these steel barriers, we saw concrete barriers known as dragon's teeth. Whatever this place was, it was not designed to keep people in like a prison. It was designed to keep people out. We also found what appeared to be storage bunkers secured behind lines of fencing and triple rows of tank traps. So What are they storing out there that requires such tight security? We finally came across a name near what appears to be a main entrance, Pantex. Great, but what is Pantex, and why does it need all the security and firepower? To Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, Pantex is the nation's primary nuclear weapons assembly and disassembly facility. It exists to maintain the safety, security, and reliability of the U.S. nuclear arsenal. Sorry, no aliens, just nukes. Well, this is all quite interesting, but does this one facility explain the unusual annual pay data we saw for Carson County? We decided to go to the source and started making calls. No, not to these guys. Instead, we called the Carson County office and ended up speaking to the county judge. The judge confirms that the Pantex facility is the most likely reason for Carson's outlier status. According to the judge, the facility employs about 3,500 scientists, engineers, and master technicians. After all, it takes serious brain power to take care of serious firepower. The judge informed us that most of the Pantex employees live outside of the county. So we have one operation in the county that does specialty work, unique to the entire nation, and with a highly trained workforce of a size more than half the county population. This workforce mostly lives outside of the county, so the county's median household income and per capita income are not related to the average annual pay value observed in the choropleth map. This extraordinary facility is the reason Carson County stands out as the annual pay king of Texas.
For our next set of counties, let's talk about the Hill Country and what is going on. We found and identified these 4 counties by graphing the Zillow's prediction of home values against average annual pay, and we identified Kendall, Blanco, Gillespie, and Llano counties as counties that have relatively low pay for how expensive the houses are. Not to mention that these are smaller counties. If we graph the log of population against Zillow's prediction of home values, we find 5 counties above our line. Now, one of them is Travis County, but the other 4 are these same 4 that we just identified. What's going on in the Hill Country? Well, first, let's talk about Kendall County. Kendall County is San Antonio's unofficial official suburb. It's seen massive population growth as San Antonio has grown. In fact, it's maintained above 40% population growth for 3 decades in a row. And it didn't have a lot of population to start with, so all of these people are moving into brand spanking new homes, and they are the subset of people working at companies such as Valero, USAA, and the like, and these are very expensive homes in the top tier. So that explains Kendall County, but let's look at the other 3. We find that they are the wine country. There are over 100 wineries in between Fredericksburg and Austin, meaning there are about 2 wineries per mile if you were to drive that route. And not only that, but all 3 of these counties are among the top 10 oldest in Texas, with Llano holding that position, ranked 1 by far. These counties are retirement hobby winery counties. People are moving from all over Texas to these 3 counties and starting up a winery for fun. Now, these jobs are not necessarily high-paying jobs. The people serving the wine, working in the fields, are not making a substantial amount of money, and neither are the winery owners, but they don't need to. They're bringing their wealth with them, pushing up home prices. In fact, an acre of land on 290 went from $7,000 a decade ago to $75,000 an acre. Now, how can you make money off of these trends? Well, first off, these counties are great investments that have not seen the home value increases over the past year due to the pandemic. We have seen home buyers staying in the city and purchasing houses in the city as they move out of apartments. For example, if you look at our new leader, Travis County, it surpassed Kendall County this year due to people moving out of apartments into homes. We do not expect to see that trend to continue. We expect to see people returning to the suburbs, returning to buying homes in the traditional hill country counties that we've been looking at. You can see that 2020 has seen a slowdown in Llano, Blanco, and Gillespie and Kendall counties. We expect this trend to reverse and maintain what it had from 2012 through 2019.
Hi, so my name's Melissa, and I wanted to look a little deeper into how the other states fared with their housing market, their median housing market, and I really wanted to look at how their markets fared over the recession. So the 5 states that I wanted to use for this were California, which is this blue line, and Florida, Texas, Virginia, and Washington here. This kind of gives you a pretty good idea of what is happening across the United States. I wanted some from the East Coast. Of course, I wanted Texas in there, and then some from the West Coast as well. And I tried to pick places that were relatively populous and had some major cities in there. Very obviously, from the beginning, you can see that California, to no surprise, has the highest median housing value, but it also took the biggest hit when the recession happened. And if we look all the way down here at Texas, it took a little bit of a hit, very, very small, but it did in fact keep growing. It has the least amount of change of all the 5 states. After that, I wanted to go in and I wanted to see how each state fared according to their major metropolis. So in this one, you can see that Naples and Marco Island, this has the highest value. This is for Florida. It also took the biggest hit, but all 5 of these kind of have the same pattern. So the housing market didn't have any major shifts across Florida. It had the same shifts across Florida. If I move into California, again, the pattern is relatively the same. As to be expected, San Francisco, this is that light blue line right here, is well above what we were looking at in Florida, starting at 800,000. But with this, you can see that all 5 of these did start increasing after the recession. San Francisco had the largest amount of growth after the recession. Now we get into Washington. With Washington, right here, this is our major city of Seattle and Tacoma. And you see it took a major dip right through here during that recession time, but it did come back. It's doing better than it fared before. The other 4 metropolises are faring about the same between the 4 of them. Virginia, on the other hand, this blue line right here is around the DC metro area. Anyone that knows that area knows that it is extremely populated and that the housing market can be pretty volatile in this particular area. The 4 down here, these are some of their bigger areas, but they don't have the same population, which accounts for why this is relatively steady across these 4. Last but not least, we have Texas. And what I find really interesting about Texas is that it didn't really take a big hit. What it did do is it just kind of kept growing. It took that recession right through here. It took that recession and it rolled with it. The housing market only got better through this whole season. This piece right here, we brought up earlier with Joe that the wine country is doing very well. This is our Fredericksburg metropolis. So I do think that this was something that was worth looking at for identifying different patterns across the state, especially when Texas, here in the middle of the US, fared relatively well in comparison to some of the other places that have a little bit more touristy areas and other attractions, are more densely populated. And I think that this was some sort of story that was worth telling. I'd like to thank you all for listening and watching our video, and we hope that you enjoyed your semester.